It's Jason from GameRaveTV, otherwise known as Danger Boy, and this is Pause Mode. This week's Pause Mode, we're going to do more of a kind of historical review more than an actual review per se. This week's game is actually a combination package called the 3 Free Games Pack, and this is something Sega actually put out with the Sega Saturn in late 1996.
Buy the powerful Sega Saturn gaming system between now and the end of the year, and we'll give you 3 of Sega Saturn's top-selling arcade games free. That's Virtua Cop, Daytona USA, and Virtua Fighter 2. $189 worth of games, absolutely free. So hurry, luck like this just won't last.
For those of you who don't know, we'll backtrack just a little bit. When the Sega Saturn was first announced, they pulled what can only be described as a blunder. How epic of a proportion that blunder is based on your opinion of the matter at hand. But, long story short, essentially at CES, Sega announced that the Sega Saturn was going to be available that day. And this freaked out retailers, it freaked out the developers. It basically came out of nowhere. And this caused a lot of confusion and yada yada yada. Now, with that confusion in gamers' minds, when it came to Sony's press conference a little later, the most amazing and still to this day one of the most incredible pieces of history in gaming history was that when they announced that a Sony representative was going to describe the PlayStation to consumers, all he did was lean forward and say $299, and the place went nuts. This is because not only did they just underscore the Sega Saturn by $100, most people at the time knew from early previews that the PlayStation had better 3D capabilities. And that was not a good sign for the Saturn, who basically more or less just botched their launch in front of an entire room full of people. But with basically a year, if not a year and a half, just shy of a year and a half under both of the system's belts, it was starting to become very apparent that the Sega Saturn, at least in America, was struggling, and struggling bad. So Sega decided to try and sweeten the pot to get people to buy the Saturn, and that was the 3 Free Games Pack. Now, this isn't a new thing. In fact, it's been going on since the Super Nintendo and Nintendo when the original Mario Brothers came with the NES. The catch was that rather than it be a third-party item, like how they do with the game systems nowadays with like Assassin's Creed and Destiny and so forth, Sega packed in 3 of their top games, more specifically their arcade games. Virtua Cop, Daytona USA, and Virtua Fighter 2. Now, this decision is what I like to call a very successful failure. And what do I mean by that? Well, from the successful standpoint, holy crap, bang for your buck, you basically got $190 worth of games for free with the system. Virtua Fighter 2 was one of Sega's greatest arcade fighter games, and it was giving Tekken a run for its money at the time. Daytona USA was a great racing game. It was essentially going up against Ridge Racer on the PlayStation, and then you had Virtua Cop, a light gun game of 2 players, bringing home that arcade experience. That's where the failure part comes in. You see, when it comes to the 3 games, each of them had huge problems that they just could not remedy no matter what Sega tried. With Daytona USA, between that and the original Ridge Racer was a game that you could basically toss in, it loaded once, and you were done. You could also use whatever music CD you wanted to play while you played the game. With Daytona USA, not only were the graphics not up to snuff to the arcade, but there was horrible pop-in. Like, at certain times, you could see just sky and nothing else. And when you compared Ridge Racer and that one, things started looking kind of hairy. Now, Virtua Cop was actually a unique perspective because it was a light gun game. Except, it was a light gun game. Sega packed in a game that more or less was designed to use a separate accessory that did not come with the bundle. Meaning if you really wanted to experience the game how it was supposed to be played, you had to go out and spend $20 to $30 on a Sega Stunner. That was a huge turnoff. It also didn't help that most people didn't know this. Like, I know by today's standards, most people are like, what do you mean? How could they not know it needed a light gun? After 20 years in gaming retail, trust me, half the people that bought that box had no idea it was a light gun game. They just thought it was to move the cursor and, shoot the guys on screen. Then, of course, there's Virtua Fighter 2. Now, Virtua Fighter 2, in and of itself, is a miracle on the Saturn. And the problem is that when you compared it to, say, Tekken, and I think Tekken 2 was almost out at the same time, you could see the huge difference in textures and polygon quality. Especially with Virtua Fighter 2, like in the arcade, Virtua Fighter 2 had these gorgeous 3D backgrounds. While Tekken was more or less designed from the ground up to have what I call the infinite floor and this almost flat backgrounds, Virtua Fighter had these beautiful 3D backgrounds. One stage you were actually on a raft floating on a river. And when it came to the Saturn, almost all the stages were now something like Tekken. They were just flat backgrounds or ridiculously changed. Like on the raft stage, you were no longer floating down the river. You were just on some brown square with the river in the background. And considering that this game system couldn't handle its own games, that was a huge uh-oh to people that bought it. On top of the 3 games that came with the bundle, the original bundles also had a coupon for $15 off another game. If a company is giving you 3 free games and $15 off another game, that doesn't come off as a great deal. That comes off as a, uh-oh, this is not going well. And truth be told, the writing was most definitely on the wall. At the time, Sega claimed that the promotion went so well that they extended. Originally it was supposed to end, I think, on New Year's, but they extended it through March of '97. However, by that time, most companies already moved on to the PlayStation, or were at least just finishing up their Sega Saturn games to be done with it. In 1997, the Sega Saturn had about 65-ish games that came out. PlayStation had more than double that. If you're a consumer and you walk into a game store and you see that system, regardless of the quality of games, because you wouldn't have known at the time, if you see about triple the games on the wall compared to that one, you're going to go with PlayStation. And ultimately, the bundle, more or less, was just an extra nail in the coffin rather than trying to resurrect the system. Now, to make this sad story even sadder, the bundle is still cursed to this day. If you do a search for any of the 3 games, every so often you'll actually see a system bundle, or you'll see just some of the games in their sleeves. Because of the precedent set by the Sega Saturn and the PlayStation with their demo discs, a lot of people think that these full games are just demos because of the sleeves they're in. And as long as you're not a collector but just want some great games for your Sega Saturn, you can usually find loose copies of these games in their sleeves for literally pennies on the dollar. I actually didn't realize there was a variant release of it, which we'll get to in a sec, and I got it brand new for 20 bucks. 3 games, brand new, 20 bucks shipped. Oh, that poor, poor bundle. The variant's actually pretty simple. It's literally just the outer box no longer has the $15 off a game coupon, and of course there's no coupon in the box. Other than that, it's really easy to obtain. If you're going for a complete version of it, there's actually a whole ton of stuff you have to look for. There's all 3 CDs, all 3 sleeves, all 3 instruction manuals, the poster, the warranty card, the sweepstakes for the arcade machine, and then based on which variant you have, the $50 off coupon. That being said, guys, we are going to end this episode here. Next week, we'll be more PlayStation goodies, more than likely a Where Are They Now segment. And other than that, we are heading into Season 4 sometime in the next few episodes. God, I can't wait. Take care, you guys. Have a great week.